I'm against companies that say we're family.
Totally agree.
Do you agree?
Fucking bullshit.
Iya kan? Exactly. You know, dude, I don't think I've told anyone this. Tapi you know what my fucking biggest fear is? It's actually there's more other people that's doing the same thing. And the only way for you to keep on doing what you're doing is knowing bahwa, hey, somebody can, you know, take over your seat right now. And that's really important di sebuah perusahaan.
Hi, it's Gian, and this is Mind of a Builder, decoding the minds of those that dreamt and built. Welcome to Mind of a Builder, and today we have Iyas Lawrence. Iyas sudah berkarya di dunia media lebih dari 1 dekade, dan segala role udah dia cobain. Mulai dari jurnalis, penyiar radio, sampai bikin medianya sendiri, Magna Talks, yang dia mulai waktu masih kuliah. Meskipun Iyas pernah bilang kalau media itu industri yang enggak sustainable, sekarang Magna Talks udah masuk tahun ke-8. And if you ask me, 8 years sounds quite sustainable. But does he still think so today? Dan apa kunci Magna Talks bisa sustain sampai sekarang? Let's find out.
Media is a if you wanna fight for big bucks gitu, if you wanna get more money, I don't think media is the place to be. The reason being is, from my point of view and from what I've experienced adalah sama seperti seorang individu yang freelance gitu, kan gajinya nggak pasti setiap bulan gitu. Same like the media industry, semakin banyak supply-nya, demand-nya ya segitu-segitu aja rakyat Indonesia gitu. Jadi porsi pembagian uang ya nggak sebanyak itu sebetulnya kan. Dibagi untuk media baru ini and so on. That's what I'm trying to say. Tapi di Magna Talk sendiri, I say it's a shit industry, tapi ya kita nggak minus juga tahun ini gitu. We did a good job, but you know, just like any other company, you have to fight so hard to get that extra point, gitu. Which we did try this year. Nyoba beberapa hal baru, podcastnya let's just set it aside and just do its thing. We'll think of something better and bigger gitu. Sedangkan banyak perusahaan di luar sana kan nggak harus mikirin plan B, plan C gitu. That's why I say it's a shit company. Plus sebagai seseorang yang punya media gitu ataupun di industri media, kita lihat kemarin zaman Pilpres, banyak banget yang kayak, okay, we'll put it on hold nih para brands, kayak we'll put the money on hold dulu, nunggu Pilpres. Terus kayak, okay, presidennya udah tahu, okay, kita tunggu beneran dilantik deh. Okay, udah dilantik kayak, okay, kita tunggu pilkada deh. Jadi it's a whole lot of pertimbangan gitu ada di media. So that's why I said to you, I think when we golfed bahwa, man, you know, I don't feel good sitting here telling you about my company when the industry is not that good. You know what I mean? Itu sih paling.
And one of the things that you've said is that the key to actually sustaining is doing more offline events, right?
Yeah. One of it.
When you started in 2017, lu mulai bikin offline event kapan? And was it after 1 year, 2 years, or when did you make that transition and realize, hey, gue tuh perlu bikin offline event, kalau nggak gue mati nih?
Dude, itu... So if we trace back, I think 2017 was the idea, was the idea of Magna Talks. Executing it was actually, I think 2017 December. We started airing February 2018 because we had that Christmas break. So 2018, the October, kalau nggak salah the October or 2019 early, we got a gig, which was the Bright Spot. So our podcast was doing okay for, you know, people knew us. Terus kayak, hey, we got a spot di Bright Spot. You wanna take over gitu. Sehari 4 atau 6 episodes live and everything. It felt so good for me as a host yang kayak, wow, people are actually listening to me. Ada nih orang-orang gitu, ada wajah-wajahnya. But on top of that, we earned our first money gitu, bahwa, oh, kita ada duit nih. Nggak lama dari situ, Spotify called us and said, hey, you wanna be exclusive with us, and then we'll pay you so-and-so, and then there's exclusivity for 5 years. When we listened to that, it was like, we forgot about the offline gigs, because it was like, there's bigger money here. So that offline part didn't matter to us. So we focused doing everything online until we realized bahwa, hey, remember how it felt, I think after 4 years gitu, 4 or 5 years, we started thinking, hey, remember how good it felt in 2018 when we got that money from offline? Let's do that again gitu. So it took us quite a while, like 2022 or 23 gitu, untuk ada offline lagi dan realize bahwa we can generate something out of this. But again, the thing about living in this country adalah everybody can do anything. Jadi offline pun sudah ada perusahaannya, media udah ada perusahaannya gitu. Jadi banyak banget. There's so many players in this industry, which is good, but which makes it tough for us juga yang mau pindah ke offline. Tapi ada banyak yang udah lebih jago gitu sih.
Given that, kalau misalnya gua atau siapa gitu yang mau buat perusahaan media di 2024, what's the playbook now gitu? If someone was starting a media in 2024.
Oh, dude, it's just like TV. Back in, I don't know, early 2000 gitu. The playbook has always been find the right talents dulu. So find the figures that can represent a company atau the media itself. Karena that's what people want what they want to watch gitu. Bahwa figurnya dulu, isunya belakangan deh, bisa datang belakangan gitu. Nggak bisa dipungkiri, that's what I've been doing juga. Bahwa gue coba ngambil guestnya yang terkenal dulu, yang isu-isu yang mau gue bahas belakangan deh, nunggu medianya bangun dan terkenal dulu gitu. Teorinya nggak pernah berubah, playbooknya nggak pernah berubah dari zaman dulu sampai sekarang gitu. Dan sekalinya udah dapet talent itu, lock them. Yeah. Lock them in a sense, not in a negative sense, but in a positive sense of, hey, make this theirs as well. Make them feel like they have ownership towards the company itself gitu. Karena when you are in a media company, there's greed kan, of like, I own the content, I own everything. Tapi the sense of belonging harusnya menyebar rata gitu. Karena yang bisa menyelamatkan media lo ketika demand-nya turun adalah ya figur-figur itu yang di depan kamera sebetulnya kan. That's why we're seeing lots of perusahaan yang nggak ada sense of belonging terhadap medianya, ya pelan-pelan mati gitu. I mean, we see perubahan paling signifikan yang baru terjadi minggu lalu, Net TV gitu, diakuisisi dengan MD gitu. Ya dulu kalau kita nonton Net TV di zaman gue gitu, ada Sule, ada Andre. Ada dua figur yang sangat cuman bisa lihat di net gitu, dari ini talk show let's say, atau beberapa film lain. Sekarang kan mereka udah punya channel sendiri, there's no sense of belonging towards that, but they could have saved the company.
Tadi sebelum kita ngobrol, tadi Iyas lu juga bilang salah satu kunci untuk perkembangannya Magna Talk selama ini tuh tim yang solid. How did you build that?
I don't know,
team?
man. I don't know.
Oh, really?
I don't know. I don't know. I think because I started off sendiri. I started off literally contacting the guest, having a sit down with them. I pressed record, I edited it, I published it, I did everything alone. And I knew the job from A to Z, what to do until it was published. I just needed somebody to come along and do it better and do it faster. Tapi sejalannya waktu, I had one, I had two, which I thought was the dream team. I had another one, which I thought was the dream team. And then I stopped having expectations. And then terkumpul lah, ada 7 nyawa sekarang ya di perusahaan kita yang if one fucks up, everyone fucks up gitu. They know bahwa it's a domino effect of one job desk to the other. So they have that sense of belonging. Jadi, how did I build that? Is to have, karena I don't know about you, cuman I'm against companies that say we're family.
Totally agree.
Do you agree?
It's fucking bullshit.
Iya kan, exactly. Because I have my own family. I come home to my wife. I don't come home to you. You're not my family. So I want them to feel bahwa we're not family. So put in your head bahwa you can not be here tomorrow just like that. Kalau family kan ada unsur, gue ada rasa nggak enak loh. No, you are replaceable. Make yourself irreplaceable. How do you do that? Be 10 times better than what you're doing today. Gitu. Karena gue selalu bilang bahwa selama pekerjaan kalian masih bisa, let's say kalian amit-amit gitu, kenapa-napa sakit atau bahkan meninggal dunia gitu, gue bisa semudah itu lo ganti graphic designer besok. I can send flowers to your house and then everything, tapi but sisi manusianya itu kan kayak I lost a friend, I lost that. Itu juga salah satu faktor yang penting tanpa harus bilang bahwa kita keluarga. Itu tuh harus dibangun sebetulnya. Apalagi di budaya Asia ini.
Bukan keluarga tapi tetap tim atau komunitas yang kuat gitu.
Itu.
Ya kan? And communities have their strong belonging, but there are rules, right, in a community, right?
And I think it's hard to find the balance. Ini, dan gue suka ditegur gitu. Lu bilang gak kekeluargaan, tapi lu suka ngajak makan siang di luar kantor. Kayak, yeah, you're right, gitu. So does it mean we can't have lunch outside of the office, gitu? No, we can. Tapi, ya kayak, we have to find the balance, gitu. I'm like, okay, sorry guys, cuman gimana gitu, kayak, that's salah satu bonding itu penting juga, gitu. Because when you have fun, itu kan kayak ada poin-poin yang kayak I got more trust from you gitu.
Dan ada ekspektasi.
Ada ekspektasi gitu. That's actually as important as sitting down and brainstorming on what to do next.
How do you see how you've developed as a manager, leader?
Yeah.
I mean, tadinya kan solo show gitu kayak.
Dude.
How did you develop as a manager, leader, recruiter juga tadi kan ada berbagai macam dream team 1, dream team 2. How did you develop?
I think learning from other companies and other startups and other leaders tentunya gitu. How they led their company, how they communicate towards their staff gitu. It's really important gitu ngelihat hal-hal seperti itu dari perusahaan-perusahaan sampai dari rumah gitu. How my father spoke to my drivers, my staff at home gitu. I take little bits of what they do and make it, customize it to my Makna Talks. I think the hardest part about what I do for the past 7 years is actually being a leader sih.
Capek ya?
Capek dan you don't know if you're fucking up. It's like, because you're not told by anyone what to do or what not to do until you realize, well, oh fuck, I've made the wrong turn. It's like being on the driver's seat and then you take the wheel. And then like, oh fuck, this is a longer trip than I've expected. Gitu. There's nobody else to blame but yourself. That is the most difficult thing about doing what I do. I mean, I believe you feel the same way, don't you?
In a very small sample size, I think it's a great privilege to
Of course.
have, but it's 24/7 thinking about it.
Oh yeah.
Like 24/7, and I think sometimes penting untuk switch off juga.
Yeah.
Sebenarnya tapi kayak gue tuh malam bisa mikirin tim gue. Do you do that malam-malam brainstorming on your
I
notes gitu?
I ruin people's days on weekends. And I know it's a bad thing gitu. It's just like I like to call my let's say my business manager gitu, and just on a Sunday after lunch, and then I saw this misalnya kayak sebuah ad on a client that we're working on. I'm like, I'll call my biz dev and I'll say, hey, did we actually sign the deal with them? Udah atau belum? Okay, if it's when is it like I know I'm not supposed to do that because I can ask that on Monday, but there's a part of me that's like I really want to know now. I'm learning how to press pause on that, even to that extent. Menyadari bahwa if you wanna just overthink it in your mind 24/7, make sure it's your own mind. Make sure it's not other people's day. And that's yang gue masih mencoba pelajari gitu.
Do you ever feel like you have to calibrate the energy that you're pouring into? Kayak Sabtu Minggu, aduh gue pengen tahu ini, gue ada ide ini ke tim lo, to your team's energy. Not that they're not semangat, tapi maybe they view it, Monday to Friday, but just because they're maybe not as semangat on a certain day, you have to calibrate, or how do you view that?
No, we sat down 2-3 months ago. We sat down, dan tim kita nggak begitu banyak kan, dan senangnya adalah kita sangat komunikatif terhadap apapun. So the key to running a business is to actually communicate. How you feel towards one another, how you feel about the work that you've received, the work that you've sent, how it's communication based. Company is that way. So we communicated 3 months ago. We sat down, and then one of our team said, we've been playing too much. I was like, okay. What is the percentage of having fun and working from 9 to 5 gitu? And we all debated, okay, it should be 50-50, ada yang bilang. And then somebody said, no, it should be 70-30 because we're actually here being paid to do actually more serious than fun. No, I think it's part of my mental, 60-40, we should have fun. And then we realized bahwa it cannot be calculated. The ratio of having fun and doing business gitu. Because business should be fun. Because if it's fun, then it's good. But as long as business is doing great, gitu. Gimana cara kawinnya gitu. Menyadari bahwa we are all there. Kita semua ketok palu. Kita semua sadar satu hal. Kita semua di sana nyari duit. Kita semua nyari duit. Kita bukan keluarga, kita bukan apa. Tujuan kita satu, nyari duit. Dan kalau memang lagi ada kesulitan untuk nyari duit, berarti kita seriusnya harus dikali 4 kali 5. Kalau memang kita lagi posisi nyaman, we deserve to have that happiness. And if it takes 80% of our time to just have fun and chill and play cards in the office, then that should be it. That's an appreciation game of you did a good job gitu. And that's why I give my team a break, a 2 weeks break for this Christmas break. And I know we fucking deserve it gitu.
You as a leader have, I think it's quite well documented, have actually, your team, you've embraced the Gen Z generation.
Oh, yeah.
How has actually embracing the Gen Z generation, changed your perspective in building Magna Talks?
They're very fluent in Japanese, Gen Zs. Tapi I like to think it the other way around. Just because they didn't have a name for our generation 20 years ago doesn't mean our bosses, our fathers felt, they probably felt worse than us, gitu, dealing with us back then, gitu. Just because they didn't have a name like Generation Z or Millennials, gitu. There wasn't a terminology for that, gitu. So I like to think in a position of, oh, this is me 15 years ago, dealing with my dad, gitu, and how he would react to certain things. And nobody would want a father or a boss that would belittle your feelings, belittle your thoughts, gitu. You want them to be supportive, or in fact, challenge them in their thoughts, gitu. So that's what I do. I only hire nowadays. I only hire people that are born above the year 2000, right? 2001, 2002, and so on. So that I can learn more, because I don't have the time to go on TikTok and just look at what's the trend or how do you market it to a certain audience. They know better. And in order for me to know how they do it is to listen to them. And it takes time to listen to them because they just talk all day long. That's actually the part of that's one fun part. Karena ini juga susah nih. I say it's not a family kan. Tapi with a generation gap between me and say my smallest intern gitu, kan gapnya udah almost I say 10 years gitu ya kan. Which is weird. So even we say we're not like family, tapi it's like a brother sister thing yang kayak which should never be in a company. Cuman ngerasa kayak hey, I'm having trouble in my uni. I'm like, oh fuck. Kayak, there's a responsibility apa.
Yeah.
You get what I mean kan? Kayak seorang kakak yang kayak, okay, how can we help gitu?
Yeah.
Kayak, or like, hey, I'm having, I'm having a bad day because my boyfriend just did this. Terus gue kayak, I don't want to be a brother to you, cuman kayak fuck him. You know what I mean? Kayak ada sisi itu juga yang kayak
That balance, right?
balance
between,
again of the difficult part of building a small company that is based on few generations, but that again is I think what makes us unique. We have that trust and just various of people.
When you see the Gen Z talents that you've
Yeah.
worked with, do you think the Gen Z, or I think Gen Z after Gen Z is Gen Alpha,
yeah.
do they actually have the right skill sets that maybe our generation doesn't have to, going back to the media industry, do they have the right, skills, tools to actually bring alive the media industry that, we think is, under threat potentially? Do they have the right tools that maybe the current generation or the current millennial generation doesn't have?
Yes, I do believe. Karena they are the consumers. They know what they're doing. They know what's the trend gitu. They know how to create subtitles in 15 seconds. They know the app to do that. I had to turn on my, Adobe Premiere, which took 15 seconds anyway. You know what I mean? They can do it on their CapCut and then done. So they know the tools. They know how to do it. It's not that I'm saying that we don't, karena we can obviously learn it as well. Cuman, we learned it the hard way. And sometimes, just because we do it the hard way, we belittle their skills of, hey, this is how you're supposed to do it.
You're supposed to drive a stick car.
Yeah, you're supposed to drive a stick car. No, there's autopilot. Yeah. It's that what I'm trying to say, bahwa they know how to do it better. Tapi, are they the key of actually, having a media to survive, gitu? Atau apakah mereka kuncinya untuk sebuah media bisa berjalan 10-20 tahun ke depan, gitu? Long-lasting life of a media? I don't think so. Karena it takes more than just content. They're really good at content creating. They're really good at content, promoting and marketing and everything on their socials. Cuman, again, it's a game of business, kan? And the only way for you to do that is to connect with other people. And sadly, the Generation Z and Alphas is really bad at creating connections outside of their phones and their own world. The reason is, which I noticed from home, because my little brother is a Gen Alpha, my little sister is a Gen Z, I myself is a millennial. I realized bahwa that 2 year of the pandemic changed their life. The need to meet people is no longer important. Human beings are social animals, man. We got a social. Tapi they proved us wrong. But you can just be in a room and just deal with yourself, and that's it. Sedangkan our generation, we were told to shake more hands, meet more people, gitu. Dan ternyata itu yang bisa membangun sebuah bisnis, kan? Because who do you want to call when things are going down, gitu? You don't just go online and say, hey, help. You gotta actually meet people and then talk and then brainstorm and how do you connect and do things, gitu. Dan itu yang menurut gue sangat penting dan mereka harus pelajari sebetulnya. That's why I told my sister and brother, go out, party at Halloween costume. Put on your costume and party out there. You don't party at home, You don't. That's really important, menurut gue sih.
You talked about when you first started Makna Talks, the average attention span in Indonesia was 7 minutes.
7 minutes.
Now 13 seconds or 7
Yeah,
seconds.
so now it's 6 seconds.
6 seconds. But then what's the future of long form? And you also see podcasts like yourself that are 1 hour and beyond. Di Amerika ada Lex Friedman,
Yeah.
3 hours gitu.
Yeah.
Why do you still do it? And so is it super long or super short, or is there nothing in the middle, or what's the reasoning?
So I do mine for 50 to 60 seconds. 60 minutes. Reason adalah banyak banget orang yang kerja di Jakarta, tinggal di luar Jakarta.
Yeah.
On an average, commuting dari Jakarta keluar Jakarta, it's about 40 to 50 minutes. So that's why my podcast airs every Friday at 5 o'clock di jam rush hour. Jadi mereka bisa dengerin sejalan mereka pulang. Selama Jakarta masih macet, selama MRT fase 1 doang yang masih jalan, 2, 3, 4 belum berjalan, I'm safe, I'm good. Podcast will still be there. And gua rasa long form itself masih ada peminatnya kok. Karena dengan alasan itu menjadi it becomes gold of like, instead of hey, you want to go out watch a movie, you know, sit down 2 hours watch, it's like hey, have you seen this podcast, let's watch it together. Sekarang udah jadi kayak gitu. Jadi ada sebuah perubahan yang gue lihat, dan it's good for us long form creators and even, you know, mid form yang berapa 20 menit, 23 menit. Dan semua segmen itu dibagi-bagi, dan ini yang tahu adalah si Gen Z ini. Without them I wouldn't know this. Cuman mereka tahu tuh bahwa di YouTube Shorts, TikTok dan Reels nggak bisa hal yang sama. It has to be different. Dan cut bagian mananya, they know better than me. Because for me, talking with, let's say, Bagus Mulyadi gitu about the worst thing about this country adalah waktu itu pengangguran yang berpendidikan gitu. For me, that's fucking interesting. Kayak, oh shit, ternyata banyak banget yang punya sarjana tapi nganggur gitu. I think one of my staff said, fuck, that's so boring. Why did you take that? Gitu kan kayak, okay, you know you, and she was right gitu. Penempatannya di mana besar. So balik lagi, even short form will always be more seen gitu. Konten-konten pendek lebih pasti dilihat gitu. Cuman pertanyaannya gimana cara dari konten pendek itu orang bisa ke konten panjang itu kan. Which is tough, dan hanya bisa dilakukan oleh si Gen Z gitu sih.
Jadi the math of mapping the 50-60 minute podcast to the 6 minute attention span itu emang rely on that Gen Z.
Gen Z, yeah, that's what I believe, yeah.
I want to replace the word media with IP.
Oh yeah, sure.
Tadi kan kita ngomong, you know, is the media industry under threat, or is it does it have a future? Tapi yang gue pernah dengar atau an IP strategy is one way to grow a media company. Tapi I don't know what that actually means sebenarnya. Kayak orang yang mulai brand itu kan udah punya IP technically. Yang penting gue daftar patennya atau apa. I have an IP, I have a brand. Tapi kan IP tuh, a radio show can be an IP. Like a cartoon character can be an IP. A media IP. What does it actually mean to build IP as someone experienced in this world?
I have a few experience with IP, cuman there's a lot of more experts that can, you know, tell you more about this. Cuman what I believe it's like music. So when was the last time you could actually list down an album? You know, the tracks in an album. Like Kendrick released an album. Do you know what's track 1 to 10? No, exactly right.
Yeah.
It's just like that. So build a media company. This is what I believe is they're trying to say. Build a media company. Make as many programs as you'd like. And then one will stood out. Let's say from Kendrick's album, track number 9 stands out on itself and becomes viral and everybody uses it on TikTok and everything. Same thing, build a media company. Build as many programs as you like. Hoping one of them stands out. And that itself becomes an IP. And you turn that into an IP, then distribute that to as many channels as you can. TikTok, Reels, YouTube, collaborate as many brands as you can with whoever it is, Disney, Keith Haring, Uniqlo, and everyone. And that itself can become, a media on its own. I think that's where it comes. Karena ketidakpastian itu, jadi you create so many until one is lucky enough to stand on its own. Which not a lot of people have the time to do that, I'm almost 30. I don't think I'll have the capability of making 16 other companies hoping one of them will stand out. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'll be dead by the time it collaborates with Disney, but itu yang mungkin dimaksud gitu, membangunkan sebuah IP. Nah, ada juga yang keterbalikannya gitu. Sebuah brand, I'll make this cartoon character and make it into an IP. From there, I'll put it on social media, I'll make it as viral as possible. Now I have a figure. That figure itself punya media, punya lagu, bisa punya TV show, dan medianya mendukung si karakter itu gitu. Instead of media didukung oleh karakter, ini karakternya didukung media-media dia. So there's a lot of ways, but again, it's tough.
In Magna Talks itself, how do you actually, tadi kan ada tim bertuju, what's the process of iterating, experimenting, or innovating in your podcast? Like, do you set up any systems, or how do you do that? And how do you innovate a podcast? Yes.
I don't know, man. I think there's a lot of discussions, and knowing what. It's not always about knowing what to talk about. In fact, it's okay if you don't know what to talk about with your guest. But it's making sure everyone knows bahwa we really have to do this gitu. So misalnya we have a guest gitu. I'm clueless about him or her gitu. It's okay if I don't have all the talking points ready yet. What's important is that everyone in this company, the 7 of us, feels that she's actually also very, very important for us to talk about. There's something about her that we really need to know gitu. Semua punya rasa penasaran yang sama. Itu menurut gue sangat penting gitu untuk menginovasikan sebuah obrolan. Let's say we just had Aldila. Aldila is a very famous tennis player. She's 35th in the world. I don't know if you know her, Juman. She's amazing. We know all her penghargaan, we know her backstory, so what do we want to know more about her gitu? Apa pentingnya gitu? And we sat down and said, you know what? Nobody knows what does it take to become Aldila today. Karena she's 35th in the world, she's the only Indonesian, girl that's playing. How do we generate more people like her gitu? And funny enough, we didn't realize this, tapi the answer was don't. And it's not that easy. And it's not fun. It's not about going to the tennis court and just play 5, 6 games in a row and then come back and then do it again tomorrow. It's not that. It's a mental game of being in Kentucky alone. No family, no friends, no medals. And then sucked in the first year. And then hoping next year you'd be better, but in fact you'd be worse. Like, if you're not ready for that, then don't. Nah, itu kan sebuah obrolan yang kayak we didn't fucking expect. And that's how we actually have an opportunity to talk with someone. And then afterwards we go back to the drawing board with the team and say, well, what do we do now? From that conversation, this is what you make, this is ini. So it's a strategi kannya harus pas juga sih gitu.
In the world of media, how do you view competition or is collaboration more important? Yes.
I think competition is way, way more important than collaboration, because I think collaboration is important that you gain more market, you have more viewers and more friends and so on. You just have fun more through collaborations. Tapi why I feel like competition is way, way important adalah it's important that you're actually not on your own in the league. There's more other people that's doing the same thing. And the only way for you to keep on doing what you're doing is knowing bahwa, hey, somebody can, take over your seat right now. And that's really important di sebuah perusahaan gitu. Otherwise, you're just going to be a snob and just say, hey, I'm doing a really good job, which sucks as a company and as a human being gitu.
And you instill that in your team as well?
Oh, yeah. I say to them, as I said to them bahwa you can hold the camera today and tomorrow somebody else can take your position. So prove me that you're irreplaceable. And now most of them have proved to me bahwa if they, sadly is gone tomorrow, I got no fucking clue what to do. That's actually a good feeling of I've trained them right, they've proved me right, they've proved me wrong. That's the best feeling.
Speaking of IP, at the time of this recording, it's been, I think, 295 episodes of Magna Talks.
Oh yeah, is it?
Yeah.
Wow. Shit,
From those
295
295 episodes, how many episodes were you holding going to the bathroom?
Dude, I don't think I've told anyone this. Cuman, I've only done once. Dimana I had to say, hey, can we stop for a minute? I gotta go to the bathroom. Gitu. I forgot who. Tapi you know what my fucking biggest fear is? It's actually sneezing on camera. Gue tuh anaknya kalau bersin nggak bisa sekali soalnya.
Just on and on.
Iya, harus kayak harus 6 kali. Jadi gue tuh takut banget kalau kamera gitu kayak gue bersin nih gitu. Cuman yeah, it's a good question. I think not a lot, but sneezing is my biggest fear.
How will you keep Magna Talks thriving in the future?
I think we'll never run out of figures, man. We'll never run out of figures selama kita masih ada di negara yang banyak banget masalah, banyak banget orang-orang penting. We'll never run out of figures. Jadi depending on them, hopefully we'll thrive. Cuman hopefully it'll last us a good number of years. I'm quite tired, tapi.
And would you ever walk away from doing podcasts?
That's a good question. That's a question I've avoided for years. I don't know, because I don't want to say yes, I don't want to say no, but I don't want to do this the rest of my life, I'll ask you, kayak, when is a good year to stop?
2045 Indonesia Mas. That's when you're gonna stop as well. We need you to get us there.
Yeah, you just like your dad. 2045. I don't know, man. How old will I be? How old will you be? 2045.
I will be 50, so you'll be 49.
I will be 49. Yeah, that's a good age.
That's a good
to
number.
Stop. Yeah, that's 49. A good age to stop.
Yeah.
Yeah, not bad if we last that long. I mean, cuman, I don't know, man. I think I really enjoy what I do. But I know bahwa I don't want to live in a world in the next 30 years gitu misalnya of what you said tadi bahwa on weekends I gotta think about work. And I know I got a wife at home that wants to spend Sunday just cooking with me and just laughing. Tapi I always find an excuse of, hey, we gotta, in order to have really nice turkey on Christmas, then I gotta work. I don't have that reason all the time. And I owe it to my family, to her, to maybe a kid later on, or kids, or even my dogs gitu, bahwa, I want to take a break for them for, half of the time I live gitu. So, I don't know, dude. As long as I have the resources, I'll probably end everything by the age of 50, maybe. 49. Yeah,
2045.
2045. Yeah, a year's better. Yeah, the years.
Pulling for you for that. Thank you for your time, Iya.
Is that it?
Yeah.
I really want to stay more, man. No, it's your podcast. Dude, thanks for having me. First guest?
First guest as a video.
As a video, yeah?
Yeah.
Thanks, bud.
Thanks, man.
Thanks. That was really fun.
That's Iyas Lawrence, founder dan host dari Magna Talks. Meskipun Iyas bilang kalau media itu a shit industry, Iyas tetap bertahan dan berjuang di sana. Berbisnis di industri media itu ibarat jadi freelancer, pendapatannya nggak pernah pasti. Makanya, punya tim yang solid dengan rasa ownership terhadap karyanya itu penting. Tapi, even dengan itu semua, nggak ada jaminan bisnisnya bakal sukses atau bahkan sebatas bisa bertahan. Jadi kenapa Iyas tetap berjuang? Mungkin jawabannya ada di kata-kata Iyas sendiri. Indonesia nggak akan pernah kehabisan figur-figur yang berpengaruh. Dan selama itu masih ada, mau nggak mau, Iyas harus terus berjuang dan bercerita. Thank you for the stories and learnings, Iyas. Kalau kalian suka dengan episode kali ini dan pengen tahu lebih lanjut soal Mind of a Builder, subscribe and follow our social medias @BuildInBlue. I'll see you in the next episode. Have an awesome day.